All right, can you state your name and what's going on to the camera?
I'm Drew. I'm a DJ in the local Richmond area, and yeah, I guess we're gonna do an interview about that.
Yeah. How do you think you fit into the Richmond music scene?
I think I fit into it pretty well. I guess I'm sort of new at it. Kind of started to get introduced into it probably like 4 or 5 months ago. But yeah, I guess I sort of like found an opening in it and kind of went in at the right time, and it's worked out pretty well since then.
Yeah, for sure. So was EDM always like a passion of yours, or is there other kind of music that you gravitated towards before?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely sort of am interested in like a ton of different genres of music, but yeah, most of the stuff that I've been like performing for is like very EDM oriented, and yeah, that's definitely like my biggest passion throughout kind of all the genres that I'm interested in. So yeah, and that's sort of where I started out too, and yeah, I'm pretty very into that sort of thing.
What kind of artists do you like to listen to when you're not DJing, or just like on your free time?
Some of my favorite artists are some of the ones that make up the labels of like Solid Grooves, Hellbent's another label, so artists like Clooney, and then Michael Beebe, excuse me, I listen to a lot of Sosa, Jamie Jones. They're kind of, I guess, like in the grand scheme of things, lesser known artists, but in kind of the side of the EDM scene that I'm interested in, they're pretty well known, but for most people, they probably wouldn't recognize a lot of the names.
So when people hear EDM, it's kind of just like a very broad genre per se. So what kind of like subgenre are you focused on particularly in that you're interested to listening and that you like performing?
Yeah, so out of the entire genre of EDM, I'd say I'm most interested in like tech house and sort of deep minimal house. So yeah, they're more of like underground subgenres of the main blanket term of EDM. And yeah, that's what I'm producing a lot of and playing at a lot of shows that I do. So yeah.
What does tech house like sound like? Can you like, describe it a little?
Tech house is very centered around like a kick drum and a bass line, and different elements of percussion. It's usually around somewhere between like 126 BPM and 130. It's very dependent on like strong bass lines and like groovy percussion. It's very easy to dance to. It's my favorite. I definitely. It's kind of
So you're saying like beats per second. Is there like a numerical aspect to EDM? Like when you're thinking about that, do you have to like count beats when you're switching like mixing songs, or is it just kind of go with whatever you think? Or?
Yeah, I mean that definitely plays a big part in kind of like forming a good set in my view, and kind of keeping things interesting. Like, yeah, I mean, that like 75% of the stuff that I'll play is kind of more like house oriented, and then I also like to speed it up or slow it down in terms of the BPM. So like, I mean, yeah, like when I'm mixing music, there's definitely like that sort of idea to it where like, you know, kind of depending on what I'm feeling or like what I'm reading out in the crowd, speeding it up or slowing it down, kind of just gauging it that way.
And you just mentioned house music. Is is house music the same as EDM, or is it a different thing? Or is it like aligned with, like, what were you saying, something about like techno? Is it like,
yeah, like house music is definitely
yeah, what's
like
your
a
definition of that?
subgenre of kind of like electronic dance music in general.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, I mean, as far as I know, it's kind of came about in Chicago in, I think, like the 90s, and it's grown from there. And it's become really popular in Europe and a lot of different places in the world. But yeah, I mean, and then branching off of house music, there's like a million different subgenres of that too. But yeah, I mean, house is, I think it actually came from the sort of stuff that the original guys were playing in, like, where, like, they would start these parties in like empty warehouses,
yeah.
and like it was kind of a new thing like 30 some odd years ago.
Sure.
And yeah, so I think that's that's where that term comes from. But,
Sure.
yeah.
And where are you from originally, before you moved to Richmond?
From New Jersey originally. Yeah.
Were you involved in like the EDM music scene, like DJing in New Jersey?
Yeah, I definitely got started in New Jersey when I was in high school. And yeah, I mean, I started producing some music back then, and got my start DJing at like smaller parties and just kind of getting a taste for it. So yeah.
What kind of venues would you do when you're in New Jersey?
Well, I started at kind of like smaller house parties and started to
With
kind
your friends and stuff?
yeah, just
Yeah.
with friends, and yeah, kind of like word got around that I would DJ, and so I just got a lot of opportunities through like mutual friends and stuff like that, and then yeah, sort of started branching out from there and kind of like coming up with a lot of my own stuff and releasing it. And then when I came down here was when I really started to play at different venues and like really branching out. So yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between the EDM scene and like the crowd, maybe like a New Jersey like venue type thing compared to Richmond, or do you think it's pretty similar?
I mean, I would say Richmond definitely has more of like a real like nightclub oriented scene as opposed to where I started out. And so yeah, it's definitely different in that sense. But and yeah, obviously like now I'm playing in you know, legitimate city. There's a lot more opportunities and things like that. So
like a kid, like a high school house party.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a little different.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot more opportunities here. Yeah.
Sure. And do you make music, or do you just mix other people's music, or can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, like I actually it's kind of unusual. I like started out kind of coming up with a lot of my own stuff and like making sort of like mashups and little mixes that I would like post on the internet and stuff like that. And some of those started to get a bit popular. And
how popular?
I mean, at the time, I don't know, getting like a couple tens of thousands of streams on like SoundCloud and stuff like that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and then it's grown a lot since then. But so yeah, it's kind of how I got started. And then within the past couple of years, I've been producing a lot of my own stuff, and I've been kind of focusing on that more and more as I've like started playing more like a lot bigger shows and sort of like starting to get a feel for things. But yeah, it's definitely what I'm going to be focused on moving forward. Is kind of like producing my own stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have like a board, or what do you use to?
Yeah, I mean, I got some of my stuff in here, but yeah. So yeah, I've got like my own DJ decks, which I mostly bring to like some of the private functions that I DJ. So, and then just kind of messing around in my own time, like practicing stuff like
Sure.
that. And then at a lot of the nightclubs that I've been playing at, they have like their own professional gear, which which has been really nice. Which so for that, like I'll just show up with my USB that has like all my music,
like your mixes and stuff.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
It. Yeah.
And kind of just show up with that and my headphones and go from there. So that's kind of convenient.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, like when you're just thinking like, I'm gonna make a song right now, like I'm gonna start going into that. Like, what do you like? How do you get inspiration for that? Like, I don't know. It's easier when you're like singing a song, I guess. But like, some of my buddies from home do that, like mix and stuff too. Like, I just don't understand how you like. How do you start off and like be like, this is where I'm gonna go. Like, this is what I'm gonna use. You know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, for me, up until this point, I've been definitely like sampling a lot of stuff.
Okay.
For my own productions and like, so mostly taking like vocal samples from some like catchy sort of song that I know, and like creating like house beats around that. And so, nowadays I've kind of been, just like when I'm feeling like I'm gonna, like get into it and start producing something, I'll just spend a lot of time like finding a sample that I really think I can work with, and then kind of like cutting it up, manipulating it a little bit into something kind of new, and then working around that.
Sure. So you're kind of saying like, you don't really just come up with, oh, I'm gonna use this beat or something. You kind of just like go for a sample first that sounds like it could be like a catchy song, and kind of base the beat off the sample. What you're saying? Yeah,
that's definitely where I've kind of started with my productions, is kind of like, like bootlegging samples from the internet and doing like unofficial remixes, if you will, like, and so I mean, that definitely gives you a lot of like inspiration, and kind of just a starting point. And then a lot of the stuff that I end up actually liking that I produce comes from that, and then originally starts with like something that's sampled, and then further down the line I'll like completely switch that out and just like spin off of what I was originally doing. And so like a lot of the times it doesn't even, the final result's not even going to include like the original thing that I was working off of.
Okay.
So I mean,
you're saying, like,
I'm just using it like a lot of times as like a starting point, just kind of like for an initial idea.
Sure.
Yeah.
So like the sample that you originally think of might not even be in the final product.
Some of the time,
It's kind of it's because it sparks the first step.
Yeah,
to something.
Exactly. And I think that's pretty common throughout like a lot of artists. So.
Do you like look at any artists, and obviously not like a personal mentor, but like, do you look at any like YouTube video? Like, I know people who like like YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's, I mean,
so many people
pretty much
do that, right?
Yeah, like when I started producing, I would watch like so many like artist tutorials on YouTube and stuff like that. But and then a lot of like pretty well-known artists would make like YouTube videos, like how-tos. And I remember like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago, before John Summit, who's now one of like the biggest artists, like, house EDM artists in the world, was making like tutorial videos on how to produce tech house from his apartment before he got popular. And so like, and now I still like look back at those videos, and I mean, it's pretty cool to see him like
blow up. And
being going from like during COVID, like producing in his like little apartment with like just basic equipment, like just his laptop, and so
when did he blow up? Like
he definitely was starting to get really popular in like 2020, 2021, I would say. So like very recently. And it's just taken off. Oh my god,
a ton of my friends are going to like Brooklyn to go see him over winter break.
Brooklyn Mirage.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta look into that.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
And so just and specifically like the Richmond scene, what are these places that you've played at so far? Like, can you go through them?
Yeah, I played at a bunch of places. I played at Ember Music Hall, which is sort of a new place. Really fun. I've had a lot of fun gigs there.
Yeah. How many times have you played there?
Probably played there like I want to say like seven-ish times, 6, 7 times,
Oh, wow.
something like that. And then I've played at Cabana Rooftop a bunch of times,
Okay.
which is another place that I've had a lot of fun at. And then I've played at Switch nightclub, which is sort of right next door to Ember, another cool place. And then I've played at this new venue that's kind of attached to the park called the Hideaway. So I've done a couple of things there too. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah.
What's your favorite one
My
of those?
favorite would probably be, specifically to DJ at, would be Ember, I would say.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of fun gigs there.
Is the
good
venue
crowds.
there, or is it like the crowd, or what's the,
Yeah,
what do you like about it?
they have a really good setup for DJing, and so they have like a nice big stage, like nice equipment, a good sound system, and it kind of is set up to for more of like a concert sort of thing.
Oh,
So
really?
like just the space really works well to have
Sure.
like kind of a nice dance floor and like a nice area for the DJs. So
Yeah.
it's set up very
Is it
well.
professional? Like, is it?
Yeah, they've had a lot of decently popular acts come through there recently. So I'm sure you remember Icona Pop was like really popular when we were probably in like, I don't know,
Middle
a
school or
long
something?
time ago, middle school, elementary school. They recently came through there. I did a show which
wow.
I was supposed to open for.
You're supposed to open for
I was supposed to be
Icona Pop.
I was supposed to be an opening DJ for them probably about a month ago. And
What happened?
I had sort of like last minute commitments that came up,
Oh,
so I wasn't
really?
able to do it. But so and then they've had a lot of sort of DJs and artists that are kind of starting to pick up their careers that have come through there
Cool.
recently. So yeah, it's an awesome spot.
How much does when you're performing live and you're not like just mixing your room or anything, how much does like the crowd like play a part in what you want to do, and like kind of what's your game plan when you so you get booked by a place and you're like, all right, we're opening or we're doing closing or whatever, like what's your like game plan when you go in there? Do you just, I know you bring your USB and have mixes, but like what do you put on them? Like, do you change your stuff for each place, or what's kind of the plan there?
So like my USB will have basically all the tracks that I have. So what's up, Sciulli? We're doing like an interview right now.
It's all good.
Sorry, bro. We can just like cut that, right?
It's fine. Just keep it on there.
All right, so
I don't want to cut it.
I was saying, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so on my USB I'll have like pretty much all the tracks that I've come across and have liked, and then kind of separated into different playlists, usually based on genre, and then so it's definitely helpful to have like a huge selection of stuff going into it, just so you can be flexible. And sort of have a lot of like stuff to work with, but and then going into it, I mean, I sometimes have like a rough plan of what I want to play, but just kind of based on like what sort of event it is. Like if it's kind of like a house party with with like a certain crowd that I know a little bit better. I'll have plan for that based off like a crowd at like a nightclub, so that I'll sort of like have an idea of like the other DJs that are playing that night, and then like what style music that they might play, what style music the venue is kind of known for,
Okay.
and go based on that. But and then I mean after like the first couple songs, it's pretty much a freestyle at that point,
Yeah.
which is the way I like to do it. Just kind of like seeing what people are enjoying, seeing what I think's gonna work, and kind of just like spitballing from there pretty much.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And how did you initially start getting booked by these places? Like, what was the kind of the first step for you to even like potentially headline for Icona Pop?
Yeah. So.
How'd you get your name out there? You know.
So I think a lot of it was through. So I pretty much. It started to take off within the last 5-6 months, and so over the summer I was kind of sending like demo mixes out to promoters and guys like that who have been running these events at these clubs for a while and are kind of looking for new DJs, looking for artists who they think might work well with the venues that they're running these parties at. And so kind of reached out to a few people like that, got my name out there, sent them some of the music that I was working on.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, it was good to kind of build those connections early on, and
Sure.
then from there I got booked to play at a lot of places.
Because the promoters are just like talking amongst each other and like, oh, we got this.
Yeah, and
You know,
then
guy
yeah, I mean I kind of
Pull up.
initially I kind of got thrown into it. Like the first event that I did, I kind of just got thrown right into it, and then I guess I did well enough to the point
Yeah.
where they wanted to have me back. So
Yeah, that's great. So what kind of advice would you give to someone who wanted to start like getting into this field of music and just,
yeah.
you know?
I would say definitely be going into it, be flexible about your taste, kind of like what you're willing to play, because I don't think, unless you're really well known for producing a certain genre of music, like nobody's going to want to stand there and listen to you play the same songs as 99% of the other DJs.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of something that can set you apart, is
Kinda like
being
underground
flexible.
stuff, or...
Yeah, I mean that, or just kind of having like more of a unique flair, and yeah, like
What's your unique flair?
I mean, I would like to think that I have my own sound, which is a combination of just like being kind of selective with what I play, trying not to sound repetitive compared to like a lot of other DJs.
Mm-hmm.
I like kind of mixing genres together that wouldn't traditionally be played together, kind of just like trying to keep it fresh, and then also
Try to keep it fresh.
yeah. Like I'm always trying to come up with I'm always like searching for new songs, and trying to come up with new ideas for mixes and stuff like that. So just kind of always trying to be on top of that and trying to be creative. Yeah.
And so you're saying you have some sort of like songs in kind of different stages of production, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any like completed 100% like?
Yeah, I've got a couple remixes.
What songs do they remix?
One was sampled from a part of the Drake song Chicago Freestyle.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I sampled some of that vocal, and then built what I think is kind of a cool beat around that. And then so yeah, that's kind of a full production that I've released at this point.
What do you mean released? Is it to the public, like people can look it up and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah. So yeah, it's on my SoundCloud page.
Okay.
And then another remix that I put out there, which is production of my own, is I'm trying to remember what song it's actually sampled from, but it's another vocal sample that I took from something and kind of created like a cool like groovy house beat around it.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so those are a couple, and then I have a lot of sort of like mashups that I've done of like throwing different songs together, like taking the vocals of one song and
kind of
mashing it up.
interluding it into another and stuff like that.
And so I have tons of those that I've put out there, which kind of got me started with it originally, was putting those out there. And yeah, I got those. Some of those kind of took off, which was awesome. And then I started making my own stuff.
Is there specific like software you use when you make your own stuff, or
yeah,
what do you kind of use to do that on your computer, right?
Yeah. I strictly use my laptop, and I use a software called Ableton Live, which is just like a music production software.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, and then for my DJ software, I use like Rekordbox DJ, which is pretty standard.
A lot of people use that.
Yeah. Most of the people, and that's sort of like what translates the best into the more professional equipment.
Really?
So yeah, so that's works well with that.
Do you plan on trying to like make money off the songs that you uniquely produce, like non-mashups? Like,
yeah.
Like how's that? Like, what's your plan for that?
Yeah, a lot of times that's like a kind of a tricky process, even with a lot of established labels.
Yeah.
It's trying to get like sampled stuff cleared.
What do you mean by cleared?
Like sort of like legally.
Oh, so you're not like copywriting someone else's song?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like even some of the stuff that's being released by like a lot of well-known artists and like the sort of more underground house genres is very sampled, and it's like taking some elements of songs that have already been released, and so like they have to go through a whole process before being able to put it out there so that they don't get sued for copywriting somebody. And so yeah, I mean, eventually I'd like to be like signed by a record label so that I could actually have some power over that. But I mean, up until this point, it's kind of.
Have you reached out to any record labels? Like sent them anything?
I'm just starting to get like, I guess you could say, like a portfolio together of a lot of the stuff I've produced. So within the next few months, hopefully I can send that out to some labels and get some feedback on that sort of thing. But yeah, so eventually I definitely want to.
That's the goal, though.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to get recognized by one of them and be able to put music out on the label.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what kind of what record label? Is it like local? Is it global in Richmond or not? Or what's kind of what are the ones that you've been reaching out to?
My I guess goal would be to get stuff released on. Most people probably won't know these artists, but Clooney has a label called Hellbent Records, which I think is pretty awesome. That's one of my favorites. And then
who else is on that besides him?
He's
like the biggest name on
he's
it?
the label boss for sure.
Okay.
And then what I like about that is it features a lot of like lesser known artists
who are still pretty good.
Who are still I mean, are come up with amazing stuff. And so yeah, I mean, other than that, like maybe eventually Solid Grooves is kind of my.
What's Solid Grooves?
That was that's, I think Michael Beebe is the head of that label, along with a few other guys. So yeah, it's kind of a goal of mine too, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you like DM'd any of these guys or like?
I've talked to people not necessarily in those that are part of those labels, but when I was starting out producing originally, I definitely reached out to some guys who were kind of starting to take off, just to get some feedback and things like that. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
When I was starting out, for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for the
Yeah,
interview,
of
Drew.
course.
Appreciate it.